TikTok and Universal Music battle over songs while the platform experiments with long-form content. Facebook turns 20. We get a sneak peek at Super Bowl commercials. And we talk about alternative ad platforms. All this and more on today's Strong Coffee Drip. Hi again, everyone. I'm Brian from Strong Coffee Marketing. As always, I'm joined by former golf professional turned marketer Duncan and Scotland's third favorite export behind kilts and haggis. Oh, wait a second. You're not Ian.
Yeah, you're going to have to do that again. There's no Ian, so.
Oh, welcome, Trevor. We're joined today, very special guest, ladies and gentlemen, fellow partner at Strong Coffee, semi-professional musician, current part-time ninja.
Nice.
Our partner, Trevor. Welcome, Trevor.
Thank you for having me.
It's good to have you aboard. This is exciting, huh, Duncan? We're expanding out who we bring on the podcast.
I mean, I was been saying for a while, let's get some guests in here. So here we go.
Well, Duncan looks very excited.
Yeah, Duncan, please contain your enthusiasm for the fact that we've got a guest on the show today. But you know what? We have a lot to talk about this week, some good topics as well. So I think we get right into it, if that's cool with everyone. We're going to start with another round of this or that. We did one of these a couple weeks ago, and actually it turned out to be kind of fun. I'm going to give you two stories in the news, and you're going to tell me, as a marketer, which one of them is more interesting to you and why. And you know what we're doing today? We're focusing strictly on TikTok. TikTok has been in the news a lot lately. There's lots of pretty interesting stories around TikTok, so we're going to use two of them in this and that. Here we go. Story number 1. TikTok versus Universal Music Group. Universal Music Group, also known as UMG, has withdrawn its music catalog from TikTok due to failed licensing negotiations, affecting famous artists like Taylor Swift, Drake, Ariana Grande, and Billie Eilish. This means users can no longer use UMG songs in their videos, and existing videos featuring UMG music have been silenced due to copyright restrictions. UMG claims that TikTok refuses to pay fair market value for the songs. A study in 2021 found that 75% of TikTok users discover new music artists through the platform. So while an artist might see a boost in popularity from TikTok, they don't necessarily see the financial boost that they would hope to expect as a result of that popularity. So that's story number 1, a pretty interesting one that's been out there over the past week or so. Sticking with TikTok, story number 2, TikTok going long. TikTok is testing a new 30-minute upload option in its beta version, continuing its trend of increasing maximum post limits over the years. Last October, TikTok experimented with the 15-minute upload. This move potentially offers a broader range of monetization options for creators through pre- and mid-roll ads, addressing a key challenge for TikTok in effectively monetization and retaining creators. While longer clips may pose questions about user engagement, which I think we all have, it signals TikTok's ambition to become a primary entertainment destination rather than just a supplementary tool for long video creators. So we've got TikTok and UMG getting in a bit of a spat over music, and we've got TikTok saying, hey, we want to become the host of long video as well. As a marketer, which one of these stories interests you more and why? We're starting with our special guest this week, Trevor. You're on the clock. Which one of these is of more interest to you?
Well, as a musician, I think the music one would seem very interesting, but as a marketer, definitely the longer form content. And just knowing what's been happening with YouTube right now, where they're kind of forcing the need of short form from TikTok, fighting against TikTok on its brands and its users and content creators, how this is almost the inverse, and I'd be curious to see what TikTok ends up doing with the interface for people to find and make use of these longer form videos.
It's interesting too, you mentioned that. I read an article the other day where people were talking about how TikTok is quickly becoming a search engine as well. And I think having longer videos in there might offer some different opportunities for brands to spread their wings a little bit more. But you're right. YouTube kind of went from long form and now they get into the short form game. TikTok's the exact opposite. They were short form and now they're going long form.
Which is interesting too, because it serves a different purpose. The short forms, that entertainment value, I just need to turn off my brain for a while and scroll. The algorithms kind of make sure they provide you with what you'd be interested in, whereas the long form content will often be more geared towards somebody following a brand or content producer of some kind, and where you do want to watch something on a regular basis or follow somebody or answer a question that you have in more of a search form. So it is like they're completely taking turns trying to do what the other does. It's just how they implement it, I think, would be interesting.
And I'm curious to see my kids. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
TikTok's better at it than YouTube is.
At which part?
I've been using
long
it
form or the short?
to plan trips. Like I type in like what are the things to do in these areas, and you could find 30 videos on different people's perspectives on things that you might want to do in these cities. Like I'm going to Europe here in May. And I've been looking for months now on just ideas and things to do. I mean, TikTok as a search engine is an excellent way to explore areas of the world, thoughts and ideas. It does a really good job of categorizing this stuff, which is what its algorithm is built to do. Anyways, that's kind of an aside. With regard to the two storylines, I actually find them both very interesting. I'm going to touch on a few points on both that I thought were pertinent. I mean, on the music side of things, I can kind of see where they're coming from, where they want to monetize it. I'd also argue that without TikTok, they wouldn't have been getting any revenue for the videos. Like this once this platform didn't exist, they weren't getting this additional. It's like a new stream of revenue for the music industry to be getting anything for this. And the fact that they're complaining about not getting enough is a little bit of an eye roll to me. I mean, Taylor Swift, as an example, she's doing okay, and I think she's, by extension, the music industry in there is doing okay. For new artists that come out, they're obviously not. Sorry, what was the music? Was it Universal? You said who was the yeah? So Universal. They're likely not going to sign a small guy. So from a new artist perspective, getting your music out there, getting your fans and non-fans engaging with your music in new and interesting ways, I see that more as a win for the industry than maybe the dollars that they might be getting or not getting, from the way that it's being monetized. It's just they're getting something, but they would be getting nothing if the platform didn't exist. So I think they're splitting hairs. Now they're just going to get nothing for their views entirely as a result of what they're doing. And I don't think that that's the smartest way to engage with your fans. People were playing these videos, learning new music, finding new artists through this platform, and now that's going to go away. I wouldn't be surprised if down the road they reverse their decision on this.
I think the negotiation's ongoing, and I would be, to like your point, I'd be shocked if something didn't, there wasn't a resolution.
I don't think they understand the breadth of reach that TikTok has with this younger generation. Also, the impact that it may have on their artist. I mean, Taylor Swift's everywhere nowadays, so that's maybe a different story. But some of the lesser known bands, I'm sure they've been seeing a lot of increase in visibility due to their music being shown on TikTok, being copied and being used by a lot of different people out there. Long form content on TikTok to me just makes sense. The whole model has always been about views, but I think the model should really be about time on site or time consuming content. I mean, I know for me, for example, one of the few times I'm actually on TikTok is when I'm at the gym. I'll go on a treadmill or I'll go on an elliptical, and I could work out for 30 minutes and not realize that time flew by. And I started to notice that my algorithm is sort of gearing me towards longer term videos during that time frame when I'm at the gym. So it seems to kind of understand and know you and even your habits a little bit. And I see this making a lot of sense, especially if the content is usable and informational for people.
Well, one of the interesting when YouTube was pushing the long form content for a while, there was a big change in what ended up being produced and who could produce it. So there was a push towards that. I remember back in the day when we were talking about keeping it under 2 minutes type thing for your story, whereas it eventually became how can you get somebody to watch for 10 to 20 minutes or longer, like an episode level on YouTube. But one of the challenges that came with that is back when we were talking about the short form content or the shorter content, a lot of people could actually get involved and produce these videos. Whereas now you look at the videos that are long form on YouTube, and some of these production teams that are required to actually produce this content means you have fewer people able to fulfill the requirement, right? So, or at the level of expectation, because to your point, it's not necessarily how long your video is how much of your video gets consumed that make it deemed worthy. So if your video, and I think we just looked at this recently, the correlation between, it's not the length of your video, it's how much of your video gets watched that chooses or determines whether or not it succeeds. But one of the recent studies that was released is how much money some of these producers are spending now on creating these videos. I'm not sure within TikTok that's been the opportunity for content creators to all of a sudden have this massive budget or a team to be able to produce 30-minute long videos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see if this gets up and running. They're testing it right now, putting a longer 20-minute video up on YouTube and TikTok, and then watching the data over the course of a month or two. I'm really curious to see, to your point, Trevor, average watch length on both those channels. Will TikTokers who are used to going, or I guess, will they stick around, or are they so ingrained? Is it ingrained in their brain that they're just like, on to the next one, and the majority of that video is never seen? So I'm really curious to see where that goes. For me, they're both interesting, but the music one for me is really interesting, and it's a really tricky situation. Like, I 100% agree that artists should be fairly compensated for their music or their images or whatever the case may be, their written work, etc. But there's some really interesting situations developing. Like, for example, there's a song out there right now that's quite big. It's charting right now. It's called Murder on the Dance Floor. And what's interesting about this particular song is that it's not a new song. It came out in 2001. And the reason that it's charting now, in kind of two reasons. First of all, because it was part of the viral dance clip at the end of the show Saltburn. Duncan, I think you watched Saltburn, correct? Yeah. Trev, did you see that one?
Nope, no idea.
Okay, well, it's something to watch.
With the kids.
Yeah, yes, not a family show. But anyways, at the very last scene of it has this song, and there's a very kind of viral dance thing that occurs. So that's part of it. But then what happened is people would watch this show, and then they go and they want to recreate this dance on TikTok using that song. Well, of course, this song falls into the new restrictions that we've been talking about. And even the artist, Sophie Ellis Bextor, she created a video on TikTok using her own song and showing off this dance that came from Saltburn. So it's really interesting to me that people saw the song or heard the song somewhere else, and then they used TikTok to amplify it even more. Yeah. But now all of a sudden they can't. So yeah, that's the idea. It's now that it's not available on there, the amplification is gone, but the monetization part still remains a mystery.
It's interesting combining these ideas again of the long form, short form concept plus the music videos is there's a few folks on it's funny enough watching them on YouTube, but they're talking about what bands currently need to be doing and some of the ways that they would reach audiences now, especially using something like TikTok. And it, long gone is that create the music video day. Is a lot of the things that are recommended now is you find that hook in your song, and instead of releasing your entire song, you're basically recreating your own song, but you're doing it where maybe you make 15 to 20 to 30 versions of that hook, and you release that in those little snippets. And if something does become all of a sudden deemed catchy, and maybe then it all of a sudden gets play and pick up, then you invest the time and energy in actually creating the video afterwards. So, that there's a bit of a different approach. So I'm curious with this change with the long form again, if it does change the usage of the platform, and maybe it doesn't, maybe it just continues on with this new feature, how that again now will impact bands when, or musicians, if something like this is happening with usage rights at the same time.
Yeah. And Trev, I'm going to introduce you to a little segment called When I Just Ask a Question That We Didn't Discuss Earlier.
Oh, surprise me.
It's something I like to do every show. So you have a band, Sound System, plug for Sound System. Yeah. if hypothetical, you're on TikTok and this longer form comes along, would it be more beneficial for you to have, let's say, 50,000 views of a 15-second video, or like 3,000 views of a longer form video? For you as a band, you know, you're talking about the idea of the hooks. Do you think that shorter, more people would be more of interest to you, or fewer people watching a longer video?
Oh, I'd have to look at the analytics behind that, but
Yeah.
you would think that the many views um, doesn't necessarily mean fans or people who will continue to follow. And,
Like, I saw it, I saw it, I saw it, I saw it.
Whereas if people are watching a video to the end and they're more engaged with your content and they seem, you know, they're typically, I would assume, more likely to want to now see the next thing or see what else you have because they've invested that time and energy and they're actually curious about the music and not just about what other, you know, what weird thing you came up with to entertain them for 15 seconds. So my gut says the longer video
one.
view to be more connected with the band and the brand, I guess.
Better chance of them following you, which would then lead them to see more of your content.
Yeah, I mean, there is the data shows that you know, if you're watching that longer form content, you're more invested, you're more connected, and have more opportunity to be influenced by the content creator or the content itself.
Good.
Because I mean, how many things that you look at on YouTube or on TikTok, if you're scrolling through, do you remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus, yeah.
Fun fact, I'll just throw this in here as we continue to grow our YouTube channel using the Strong Coffee Drip. You know, the majority of our subscribers come through our shorts and not our long form videos.
They support the long form, connection.
Yeah, interesting. All right, good topic, guy. Good topic. That took almost the entire podcast, so we're gonna have to keep moving. That's good, guys. Good news. We're going to a birthday party. You know who turns 20 this year? Facebook. Happy birthday to Facebook. 20 years ago, Mark Zuckerberg created the Facebook out of his Harvard dorm. Since then, the platform has completely changed the digital landscape and the way we communicate. Lots has happened in 20 years. The creation of Meta, the purchase of apps like Instagram and WhatsApp, the Cambridge Analytica scandal, FTC issues, Oculus, a movie, data breaches, and much, much more. The question I have for you, you've been invited to Facebook's big birthday bash. What are you writing on the birthday card? Duncan, let's start with you, Duncan. What's your message to Facebook?
I have to give this a bit of thought. You know, now that Facebook's 20, I think it's by and time that it is an adult now and has to be responsible for its actions. I mean, I know when it was a teenager, it had that Cambridge Analytica scandal. It got in a little bit of trouble, but mostly just got his hand slapped. So I do appreciate that it's now taking some responsibility for its actions and unfortunately ruining our ability to target ads. But in terms of a birthday gift,
just a message.
You know what?
He doesn't need a gift, Duncan.
Congratulations on your latest earnings report. You still seem to be a stellar company that can make a ton of money, which surprises a lot of people. I don't know if anyone saw their stock move up in their last earnings report, but it jumped up I think it was the largest increase in a single stock on a day. I think it was like $200 billion on that earnings report that they had. So they are finding ways to make money no matter what. And as a 20-year-old, I applaud their expertise and prowess in doing so. I will
That's
not be
a nice birthday,
regrettably.
Yeah, very nicely said.
Wow. Should
we give it a compliment sandwich? Because Brian, I don't know what you have for a message to Facebook.
Mine's less positive than Duncan. Do you want me to go next?
Yeah, I think you should go.
Okay. Let me get my pen out here. All right, just going to write this card here. Dear Facebook, I used to think that you were sort of useful, but I'm concerned that you've gone downhill in recent years. You never return my calls and emails, or my chats for that matter, but I continue to use you on a semi-regular basis. You might not be as cool as your cousin Instagram, but good job making it to 20. Enclosed is a plain gray t-shirt. Please pass it along to Zuck. Best regards, Brian.
I love the nuance. That was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wrote it like an actual card too, Duncan. I didn't bring up stock prices. Like if you brought up stock prices in a birthday card to me,
I bet you that gray T-shirt's going to get some use because he is definitely a fan.
Add it to the closet. Add it to the closet. Okay, Trev. What are you saying to Facebook for the big 20, big 2-0?
Well, I knew we had to, say something to Facebook. Actually, at first, my thought was Facebook already knows what I'm going to say probably better than I would say it.
True. That's fair. Yes.
So I don't really need to say anything. No, I do have a short one here for you. Dear Facebook, my digital dopamine fixer, I hear you're 20. What can I say about the entity that's been there along my side the entire time since I clicked the agree to terms and conditions box without even looking at a word?
Wow.
Yep. To an entity that knows more about my habits than I do, to which I've spent countless hours with and cannot recall almost any of it. I'm sorry about that time I thought I should dump my Facebook shares. Silly me, because they are now at an all-time high. Congrats, Facebook. Oh, wait a minute. Look, there's a cat with a tie.
Oh, yes.
Oh, got distracted.
So that's a fairly...
I wish Facebook could send itself some of its memories from 10, 15 years ago. Just like it sends us all the time, just to remind us.
Oh, that'd be nice if we could do up a Facebook memories
past relationships that we blocked the person and don't want to talk to them anymore, or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Like a video montage of Zuckerberg. Here's a video montage of Zuckerberg in court and some hackers stealing files.
Memories from 10 years ago.
Yeah, all the stickers shared, all the...
Yeah.
Right.
So
I just
overall,
wish
positive
that for their 21st year they bring back poking. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, I missed the poke. Yeah,
that's
a good call, Duncan. And if you were writing this in a card, would you go card that you open and something pops up, or are you the fan of the really big novelty cards? I like novelty cards. I think they're underused.
Terms and conditions fall out of it, and they just go on like toilet paper roll forever. That would be what I do.
So you open the card, it all rolls out, and they have to read the whole thing, and then your message is at the bottom.
Well, no, by accepting this card, you're agreeing to the terms and conditions, and just have them roll out and it make a giant mess everywhere. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Or a confetti card. I think a confetti card would be good. Just something really annoying. That's what I want.
Sparkle bomb, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. Glitter bomb cards for Zuck. I don't think he's waiting by his mailbox for our cards, though, so I think we're all right. Probably be a digital card anyways. Hey, guys, you know what's happening this weekend? Anybody know? Anybody know? Sunday?
Is it football? Is it football?
Super Bowl. It's Super Bowl Sunday.
I have to admit, I just found out yesterday what's happening this weekend. Yeah. So
that why you're wearing that hoodie? Maybe, perhaps.
I know that I'm on a podcast today with two guys that don't really follow football, which is totally fine. This is my team. If you're looking for a team in the future, guys, this is it right here. Rough year this year. Got a new coach. We're looking up next year. So hop on the Chargers bandwagon. But it is Super Bowl Sunday, this Sunday. And in response to that, YouTube has launched its AdBlitz hub for the 2024 Super Bowl, showcasing all ads before, during, and after the game. This tradition, now in its 18th year, offers viewers a glimpse into the creative approaches of top brands. While there's often hype around Super Bowl promotions, they serve as a showcase for emerging trends and creative inspiration for marketers. YouTube's AdBlitz already features teasers and campaigns for this year's game. You can really go on AdBlitz right now and you can see, they've been adding them here over the past couple of days too. Basically, a lot of the commercials you're going to see on Sunday or teasers leading up to them. So my question isn't necessarily related to Super Bowl ads per se, but what is your favorite ad of all time, whether it be print, radio, television, online? Your favorite ad of all time. Trev, what is your favorite ad of all time?
Oh, I think I'm going to have to narrow this back down to the Super Bowl ads.
Okay.
Just because otherwise I'd be sitting here forever trying to think through everything that I've been exposed to that I actually recall. But for Super Bowl ads, the first one that comes to mind that I remember is the herding cats video. If you recall that, it was the these burly cowboys herding cats. The problem is I didn't recall who made the ad. So interesting ad. I remember it. It's funny. I always have, but I just don't remember. Actually, I might have to look this up. Who that ad was for? What brand?
Yeah, it was kind of set like a Western, really.
Yeah.
And you think these cowboys are herding cattle across the plains, and it turns out that they're actually herding cats. And I remember I don't remember what year it came out, but yeah, that was one that got a lot of play. A lot of people were talking about that one. But you know what? You're right, Trev. We were talking about this before we hit record. You might remember the ad, but you have no idea who it was for.
Yeah, that's the catch. Is some of these ads you don't necessarily know right away, or even recall afterwards who it's for. So it looks like this one was from 17 years ago, at least 17 years ago. Nice, and it was a EDS, a Hewlett Packard company.
Oh, herding cats. Don't understand the tie, but herding
here
cats.
maybe, EDS, Fallon for Electronic Data Systems.
Oh. There you go. Congrats to them and their agency for creating such an amazing ad. Duncan, what about your favorite ad of all time?
It honestly changes, but I think in this context, I kind of keep thinking of two. They both did a really good job of kind of like building a character that they feel personifies their brands. So I have to go with that OG Old Spice one, which I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. I can't remember the actor's name. It's like Mustafa or something. That one. And then the other one is those Dos Equis ads, like the beer with that iconic guy who's like, there's beer, but it's not those. Those two ads for me resonate, and I still think of them every single time I'm in the supermarket getting deodorant, or I'm at the liquor store buying beer. They're just iconic, and the fact that they have that amount of retainability or retention is amazing. Every time
both those companies
I see them on a menu, I'm like, oh, I got to be like that guy. And that's
the most interesting man in the world.
Yeah. Well, the Old Spice ones, the one thing I noticed about that, which was really interesting, is how many brands afterwards tried to replicate that same concept, right? And tried to be quirky like that, and either pulled it off or didn't. But you knew right away when you saw that commercial, I know what you're trying to do. Like you're tempting the Old Spice commercial.
Yeah. And both those commercials weren't only single commercials. They turned them into, they went on for years, right? Different variations of them, etc. Those are good ones, Duncan. Congrats. Nice. I'm going a bit old school. I don't think Duncan will remember these commercials because he's a little bit younger than Trev and I. So in the late 80s, early 90s, I'm not dating us, Trev, but we're older than Duncan. We are by a number of years. Late 80s, early 90s, there was a gentleman by the name of John Machida Jr., and he was known as the fastest talker in the entire world. He was in the Guinness Book of World Records, and he had lots of commercials, I think over 100 commercials in his career. But the one I remember the most...
The captions at the end, it's like, no purchase necessary. That guy?
He could have done it because he can talk that fast. But the commercial I remember that he did, or the series of commercials, was for Micro Machines. So you remember Micro Machines, the tiny little cars that were really small, and he had a whole series of them. The one I remember the most is the Micro Machines aircraft carrier, where the little planes would come up on the little...
I had that.
You had the Micro Machines aircraft carrier.
Probably influenced by that commercial. I would have asked my parents for that, and we did get it. So,
Wow. Yeah. I am jealous, Trev. I never got the aircraft carrier, but I remember those commercials. And just as a little kid, it was like that drug. As soon as you heard the fast talking, you were glued to the TV because he was selling you Micro Machines. And then you went to the store, and now we all have boxes of Micro Machines somewhere that are really useless. And of course, his famous tagline at the end, if it doesn't say Micro Machines, it's not the real thing, because there were knockoff Micro Machines as well. So kind of an aside to Micro Machines that Duncan would be more familiar with, played a key role in saving Kevin McAllister in Home Alone as well.
Oh, nice.
Put them on the stairs. So, yeah. So not only were they fun toys, they were also life-saving devices for poor burglars trying to get into your house. So,
They're
Besides
improvised
just calling the
weapons.
cops and solve everything. But yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the AdBlitz, though, I had a chance to look at some. I know, Trev, you had watched some too.
Yeah.
I think the one I'm most interested in is there's a 1.5-minute teaser for the actual commercial on YouTube right now. It's for State Farm Insurance with Arnold Schwarzenegger, where they make fun of the fact that he can't say ours, so like a good neighbor. And it looks quite funny. And the teaser is on YouTube leading up to the actual commercial that'll debut during the Super Bowl. So, but yeah, kind of interesting, kind of fun. For those of us in Canada that maybe don't get to see all the commercials in real time, you can just go watch them on YouTube too. So there you have it. Going to jump into the mailbag. For people that aren't aware, like Trevor, we have a mailbag, Trev. It's sitting just over to my right here. It's overflowing. Like we can pick one or two every week. There's just a lot. So I have picked one, and we're going to jump into the mailbag where the questions are real, but the names and locations are not. This week, Hector from Tucson writes, and Trev, he's written in before too. He's a bit of a fan.
It's a mailbag.
Hey guys,
Tucson's.
It's mainly overflowing bag. It's mainly from Hector. Yes. Hey guys, I've been asked to create an advertising strategy for my company. I don't know what kind of company is Hector, but let's continue. I know about Facebook and Google ads, but I want to look beyond the big two. What are some digital advertising channels that you've worked with beyond Facebook and Google? So, Hector, we could just start listing things, but I don't think that's very prudent. So I want to start with Trevor. Trevor, what would you say to Hector's question?
That's tough to just come up with an immediate response to that without knowing more information. A lot of what we look at first would be in choosing other platforms outside of Google or Meta, Facebook and what have you, would be, where is your audience on? Like where do they go to get their information, and what type of information they're looking for? Are they problem solving? Are you having opportunities to influence them? To questions like, is it B2C, business to consumer, or is it business to business? So I think that would have a big impact on what platforms we would recommend in that case. So,
yeah. And again, you need to have your context, and you need to have your goals and your audiences and before you can just pick things, right?
Yeah. So choosing platforms just for the sake of choosing platforms to try. It is nice to test, and actually, as long as you have your analytics and your conversion metrics set up, you can actually start to analyze what is or is not working, to a certain degree. But it's still nice to narrow down based on where your audience is and the stage they're at. And even like how it works with your other advertising platforms. So the ones that you choose to complement or supplement what you're doing already or outside of these, is it fitting the right role in the whole advertising strategy?
Agreed. And Duncan, as somebody that leads our advertising team, what are some actual channels that we've used maybe beyond that are interesting or unique, or maybe worth at least a look once you've answered the questions that Trevor's outlined?
Well, look, Google and Facebook are kind of like the two kings of advertising for a reason. They kind of offer a decent solution to pretty much any marketing challenge you have, whether it's B2B, B2C, if you're trying to sell products, if you want awareness, if you want to sell events or services. You can kind of do it on – the reason why those are so big is because they can kind of do it all. When you start looking at some of the other mediums that are out there, generally they're better for certain types of promotions more so than others. And that's kind of what you have to understand. So depending on what your business is and what you're promoting, there likely are different mediums that fit better for what you're trying to achieve. So like B2B, business to business, LinkedIn still does a pretty good job of allowing you to target people in different ways, like what their roles are, what companies they work for, what industries they're in, what kind of skills they have. So like that makes a lot of sense for a lot of different clients that we work with. If you're working in e-commerce and you have a product and an e-commerce website, things like Pinterest are great. TikTok is great, especially if you can kind of show either the making of the product or people interacting with the product or how it's used or what problem it solves. That kind of short form content works really well on those platforms. YouTube as well, I guess, for that as well. If you start thinking about, other kind of events, Reddit can actually do quite well for you to get a bit of exposure, especially with crowds that I'd say like consuming a lot of information, generally a bit more like kind of affluent. If you're trying to hit younger demographics, then there's things like Snapchat. And TikTok is also another one for younger demographics. So it's really kind of all over the place. Then you have some things like programmatic that kind of dodge in between all of those. You have Spotify radio ads if you want to be more on the awareness side. So like there's way too many options out there to kind of cover them all. But what I would kind of say is really understand what your goals are. And as Trevor alluded to, understand who your audience is, and then find a medium that kind of suits that bill would be my suggestion.
Thank you, Hector, for your question. Lots for Hector to think about. Hector can weigh his many options before he decides on where he wants to go next. Speaking of options, before we wrap up, there's only 2 options in my next question here, 2 answers. As probably the 2 biggest football fans in our office, who do you think will win the Super Bowl this weekend? The San Francisco 49ers or Taylor Swift and the Kansas City Chiefs? Not to say Taylor Swift is playing. She's cheering for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Travis Kelce, Chiefs. I got to be with Taylor. That's my vote.
Okay, good.
And there's this rumor. There's this rumor that there may be a proposal. So I'm just going to go on that bandwagon because it's
a proposal.
Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce could happen at the Super Bowl. I'm not
Duncan. Or all of a sudden, this is TMZ. Duncan's dropping some. Wow. Okay. Trevor, the San Francisco 49ers or the Kansas City Chiefs?
Hey, Google, who's going to win the Super Bowl this weekend? Can I cheat?
Sure.
Actually,
I don't know what Google's.
The chain crew. They always go the whole 10 yards.
Oh, the chain crew, because they always go the whole 10 yards. Oh, Google.
That's funny. It also set off my Google here in the office. So.
Oh,
yeah, sorry about that.
Okay, well, I think Trev is going with Travis Kelce as well and the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'll go with that. I'm going to support the internal team here and the best wishes from the Strong Coffee side.
Okay, and I want the San Francisco 49ers to win, but I think the Chiefs will win. So it sounds like a clean sweep here. So we will watch on Sunday, not just for the football, but probably for the ads as well. Have a fantastic weekend, guys. Another episode in the books. Thanks for tuning in on YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify. We've had a few comments and questions come through. We've been able to respond right away, so keep those coming in. We're always happy to get back to you and share our knowledge. A big thanks to Duncan and Trevor. It's been fun. Trevor, thank you for joining us today. Now let's get back to work. Have a good week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care.